Welcome back, my friends, for another fun reloading video. Today we're loading up some more 357 Magnum. We're going to be using the Lee 358-125RN. We're using accurate number 5. Our brass has already been prepped. We have primers in here. We are using the CCI small pistol Magnum number 550, and we are ready to go. All we have to do is dump our powder and seat our bullets, so let's get on with it here. So here was the load data I was able to gather between all of our different sources. Here we can see with an XTP, we're calling for 9.6 to 10.6 grains here. A Barnes solid, that's going to be a much larger bullet because it's a solid, probably copper or brass projectile, so those are much larger than your solid lead. So they're only calling for 7.5 and 8.3 grains. This is only going to give them 1295 in velocity compared to 1446 for the XTP here. Moving on to our next source, we found data for a plated bullet. That's the Berry's 125 grain. And plated bullets have a maximum velocity of 1250. That's because they're copper plating will actually come off in flight or while it's being spun through the barrel. So their maximum is 1250, and as you can see with 9.9 grains, that's where they think they're landing to get 1238, and that's our maximum with Berry's. And then we checked our Lyman manual, and with a cast lead bullet they're saying 8.6 to 10.8, and that's giving them 1450. So between our two bullets that are actually representing the size and amount of case fill we're going to be experiencing, it looks like our maximum is on the higher end here of 10.8 and 10.6. So I'm going to go ahead and try 10.3 here, and we'll take a look at our case fill compared to our seating depth and go from there. So we've got our 10.3 grains here in our case. Here's a look at our case fill. If you guys know accurate number 5, it's actually a really fast burning pistol powder, so it's way down in there. So this is one that you could probably actually double charge. So we need to be super careful when we're doing all of our powder throws here. And there's our case fill, probably only halfway compared to our bullet seating depth, which is only here. So we're gonna have plenty of room left. But again, it's a faster powder, so we don't want a big full case of this stuff. So I do have this one charge here poured, so we are going to go ahead and seat a bullet on this case, but I'm going to use the Uniflow and charge all 24 of those other ones at once. And then we'll inspect our case fill across them, see if we double charged or missed a charge, and we can go seat them all at once and then crimp them all at once, rather than one at a time, filling and seating and filling and seating. So here's our first live round seated. We are not crimped yet, but this is where we are at. Our overall length ended up being at 1.570. So I'm going to set this one aside. We're going to break out the Uniflow and charge all these at once and then seat them all together. Okay, so our Uniflow here is dialed in, and we're going to go ahead and throw all of our powders at once before we seat our bullets. A quick look at our case fill here. Everything is looking good. We are all charged and ready to go. Time to just seat some bullets and then crimp them, and we will be done here. So we've got our bullets sitting on top of our cases here that just need seated. So we'll go ahead and run these up. Take a look here. Beautiful, that's right into the top groove where we're going to crimp into. You can see our case capacity starts here, or ends here rather, and our powder was down in here. Again, we're using a fast pistol powder here rather than a slower Magnum, so we don't need a full case with our faster powders. So we have everything seated, we have our crimp dialed in. Sort of a medium to heavy crimp to make sure we're in that groove, to get that nice consistent initial pressure. So that's one. We have 24 more to go. So there we are. We've got a nice healthy crimp in there. All 25 of our rounds are ready to go to the range. So let's get packed up and I will see you there. And bang, boom, pow, just like that. We are back from the range. Welcome. So here we are back at the bench. Got a couple targets here and some chrono data as well, but we'll take a look here. 10 shots on this target. Just getting warmed up. We can see we're centered, but we're throwing them left. We're throwing them at 9 o'clock. We're throwing a 1 high there. But overall, round holes, nice and clean, punches through there. It goes where you point it, if I can point it correctly. And let's take a look at our next target here. Okay, so this one has 15 of the 25 shots on it. And we can see pretty consistent as far as the hold left, but a nice vertical string, probably on my part. We got 23 of the shots on the chronograph, and what that ended up giving us, an average of 1288, spread of 66, and the SD there of 17. I had some notes: manageable recoil, little but some unburnt powder. That's right, a couple of the cases you could see little flakes of barely unburnt powder, so not too big of a deal. I think if we bump up our charge just a little bit, we will be able to have it all burning. I think we're going to try increasing our charge maybe to 10.5 and see if we can get a full burn there and see if we can get these numbers to tighten up just a little bit. But let's take a look at our brass here, because we kind of made up our charge and didn't exactly know what our max was going to be. So let's see if we have room to increase this at all, actually. So here's a look at our brass. We can see our primers here. They are starting to get a little bit flattened on us. This one here, maybe these are flatter than some of the others. That could have to do with our spread there, as well as our using the powder thrower. We can see that we're starting to get some signs of pressure here. But we can also see the edges are nice and rounded. They're not quite flattened all the way into that space there. We are getting close, but I think if we went up to 10.5 grains here, we would get a complete burn, as well as maybe tighten up our velocity numbers perhaps. They did have a nice seal. We crimped them pretty good like up in there. Nothing too bad on our brass. They're fairly clean, but we're still going to probably end up tumbling them. And they all look pretty uniform to me. We're going to inspect all of them again before the next loading and make sure we don't have any splits or cracks on our case or our neck here. But overall, we can see we're pretty close to our maximum pressure, so I don't want to push it a whole lot hotter than we already are. But I think we're going to try bumping it up to 10.5. And maybe even just try 10 grains and see if we find maybe a velocity node, or see how that affects our point of impact. And perhaps if we change our velocity, it'll change our point of impact, maybe shift us right a little bit, or left, or up, or down. Who knows? We'll have to see. But we can see that this target, if we overlay the two, they almost look completely different. But I'm pretty certain that that's just me, the shooter. So anyways, I think that's going to do it for this episode, folks. We know where we're headed in the next one, so stay tuned for that. We're going to be increasing our charge there as well as decreasing it. We're going to see how that affects our numbers on the chronograph as well as changes our point of impact on the targets. We shall see. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate you hanging out. Stay tuned for more, and we will see you in the next video. Have a good one.